The Great Hall of Nexus Prime stretched for miles in every direction. 7 massive thrones sat in a perfect circle, each one built for a different alien species. The air hummed with power and arrogance that had built up over 3,000 years of total control. Commander Zixthor shifted his massive reptilian body on his throne. His yellow eyes glowed with anger as he spoke to the other council members. The humans are becoming a problem. They ignore our borders. They ignore our warnings. They act like they own the galaxy. The other 6 beings around the circle listened carefully. Each one represented a species that had ruled space for longer than humans had existed. They had crushed rebellions, destroyed entire worlds, and made lesser species bow down in fear. No one had ever challenged their power and survived. Ambassador Velnara spoke next. Her crystalline body rang like beautiful music, but her words were cold and deadly. These mammals from Sol 3 are nothing special. They barely learned how to travel between stars 50 years ago. We have been masters of space for millennia. The insectoid Queen Thrix clicked her mandibles in agreement. Her compound eyes reflected the light from 1,000 different angles. My scouts report that humans have now established colonies on 12 worlds, 12. They spread like a disease across our territory. The gaseous being known as Nebula Mind 9 floated above his throne, his body shifting between different colors. Perhaps we have been too patient with these creatures. Other species learned to respect us much faster. Forge Lord Carr, his metallic body gleaming under the chamber lights, spoke in a voice like grinding gears. My analysis shows that human technology is primitive compared to ours. Their ships are small, their weapons are weak. They should pose no threat to any of us. The energy being called Voidwalker 7 pulsed with barely contained power. Then why do we waste time talking? Let us simply remove them from space entirely. One orbital bombardment of their homeworld should end this problem. The last member of the council, Thoughtweaver Psi, projected his mental voice directly into the minds of the others. I have tried to read their thoughts from across the void. These humans are different. They think in ways that are hard to predict, but they are still just animals. Commander Zixthor slammed his clawed fist on the arm of his throne. Different or not, they will learn to obey like all the others. I propose we send a fleet to their border worlds. 200 ships should be enough to make them surrender. The vote was quick and unanimous. The Council of 7 had spoken. Humanity would be taught its place in the galaxy. What none of them knew was that 3 days earlier, Captain Jake Morrison had received a coded message from a human spy deep in Council territory. The message was short but terrifying. Council planning attack. 200 ships. Prepare for war. Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the UHS Defiance, reading the message for the 10th time. His crew worked quietly around him, checking systems and preparing for what might be their final mission. The Defiance was humanity's newest and most advanced warship, but it was still just one ship against an entire alien armada. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker approached him with a datapad. She was young but brilliant, one of the best tactical officers in the human fleet. Captain, we've finished the final checks on all our new systems. The quantum drive is running perfectly. The null shields are at full power. Morrison nodded. Lisa had been his second in command for 2 years now, and he trusted her judgment completely. What about our weapons? Are the plasma lances ready for combat? Dr. Walsh's new design passed all the tests, Lisa replied. But remember, we've never used them in a real battle. We don't know how they'll perform against Council shields. Morrison looked out at the stars through the main viewer. Somewhere out there, 200 alien warships were preparing to attack innocent human colonies. Men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong except try to build new lives on distant worlds. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez called out from his station. Captain, I'm showing green lights across the board. The new engines are ready to go. But sir, are you sure about this plan? We'll be outnumbered 200 to 1. Morrison turned to face his crew. These were good people, volunteers all. They knew the odds as well as he did. They also knew that someone had to try to stop the Council fleet before it reached human space. I know the numbers, Tony, Morrison said, but we have advantages they don't know about. We've been developing new technology while they've been sitting on their thrones thinking they're unbeatable. Weapons Officer Kyle Bennett looked up from his console. Sir, all weapon systems show ready. The new targeting computers are online. But Captain, even with our improvements, those are some pretty big ships heading our way. Morrison smiled grimly. Kyle was right to be worried. The Council species had been building warships for thousands of years. Their vessels were massive, heavily armed, and protected by shields that had never been broken. But humanity had something the Council didn't have. They had learned to adapt quickly. While the aliens had spent centuries perfecting the same old designs, human engineers had been trying completely new ideas. Dr. Amanda Walsh's breakthrough in quantum physics had changed everything. "Listen up, everyone," Morrison announced to his crew. "In about 6 hours, we're going to face the biggest fleet the Council has ever assembled. They think we're primitive. They think we're weak. They think one human ship can't possibly stand against 200 of theirs." He paused and looked each of his officers in the eye. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Humanity doesn't back down from bullies. We don't surrender when the odds are bad, and we definitely don't let aliens threaten our families. The bridge crew straightened up with determination. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Every simulation, every drill, every sleepless night studying alien tactics had led to this. Morrison sat down in his captain's chair and activated the ship's communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We are about to enter enemy territory to intercept a hostile fleet. Our mission is to protect human colonies from attack. Our enemy thinks we are weak because we are outnumbered. Today we show them that one human ship with the right crew can change the course of history." The UHS Defiance turned toward the edge of human space and engaged its quantum drive. In a flash of blue light, the ship disappeared from normal space and began its journey toward the largest space battle in galactic history. Behind them, the Council fleet continued its advance, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Admiral Keftar of the Reptilian Hegemony commanded the armada from his flagship. He had crushed many rebellions before. This would be just another easy victory to add to his record. Neither side fully understood what was about to happen. The galaxy was about to change forever. Admiral Keftar stood tall on the bridge of his flagship, the Scales of Victory. The massive vessel was 2 miles long and bristled with enough weapons to destroy a small planet. Around him, 199 other Council warships moved in perfect formation through space. The Admiral's yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he watched his fleet advance. Each ship represented the finest military technology of the 7 Council species. The Reptilian Hegemony provided the heavy battleships. The Quartz Collective contributed their energy-focusing cruisers. The Hive Queen sent their living bioships that could heal damage in real time. "Tactical Officer report," Keftar commanded. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never lost a battle. The 4-armed Hive drone at the tactical station clicked nervously. "Sir, we are approaching the edge of human territory. Long-range sensors detect minimal activity. A few cargo ships, some mining platforms, and several small patrol vessels." Keftar's forked tongue flicked out in amusement. "Exactly as expected. These mammals have no idea we are coming. How many military vessels do they have in the area?" "Scanning now, Admiral," the drone replied. Wait, this is strange. There appears to be only one military vessel in the entire sector." The bridge fell silent. Every alien officer turned to stare at the tactical display. One ship. One single human vessel against the greatest armada ever assembled by the Council of 7. Admiral Keftar laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "One ship? Are you certain your sensors are working correctly?" "Yes, sir. All systems are functioning normally. There is definitely only one human warship in the area. It appears to be—" "Oh, by the great scales!" The main viewer suddenly lit up as a sleek human vessel materialized directly in front of the Council fleet. The UHS Defiance hung in space like a silver dart, small and graceful compared to the massive alien ship surrounding it. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker studied the enemy fleet through the Defiance's advanced sensors. The readout was intimidating. 200 ships, each one larger than any vessel in the human fleet. Some of the alien battleships were so big they had their own gravity fields. "Captain," she reported to Morrison, "I count exactly 200 enemy vessels. Their weapons are charging and they're moving into attack formation. Energy signatures are off the charts." Captain Morrison remained calm as he studied the tactical display. His years of experience in smaller skirmishes had taught him to stay focused when facing impossible odds. "Open a channel to the lead ship. Let's see if we can resolve this without bloodshed." On the bridge of the Scales of Victory, Admiral Keftar received the incoming transmission with barely contained amusement. The primitive mammal actually wanted to talk while facing 200 warships. This was even more entertaining than he had expected. The human captain appeared on the main screen, He looked young for a military commander, with brown hair and steady blue eyes. He wore a simple uniform without the elaborate decorations that council officers favored. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Human Systems Defense Force," the transmission began. "You have entered human territorial space without permission. I am ordering you to withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The alien bridge erupted in what passed for laughter among the various species. Several officers made clicking, hissing, and humming sounds that expressed their amusement. Admiral Keftar's massive form shook with mirth. "Did this creature just threaten us?" Keftar asked his bridge crew. "One ship against 200 and the human talks about consequences. These mammals truly are as stupid as our intelligence reports suggested." But aboard the Defiance, Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez was making final adjustments to systems the Council had never encountered. The quantum displacement drive was something completely new in galactic warfare. The null shield generators operated on principles that alien science couldn't even detect. "Quantum drive is online, Captain," Tony reported from his engineering station. "Null shields are at full power. The new plasma lance array is ready for field testing." Morrison nodded grimly. "Very well. All hands to battle stations. Lisa, prepare the surprise package. It's time to show the Council why humanity doesn't back down from bullies." The bridge lights dimmed to red as the Defiance prepared for combat. Every system hummed with barely contained energy. The crew worked with quiet efficiency, each person knowing their role in the desperate plan they were about to attempt. Weapons Officer Kyle Bennett's hands flew over his console as he armed humanity's newest weapons. "Plasma lances are charged and ready, Captain. Quantum torpedoes are loaded in all tubes. Targeting systems are locked on the enemy flagship." Admiral Keftar cut off the transmission with the human captain and turned to his own weapons officer. "Charge all main batteries. Prepare to demonstrate Council superiority. We'll disable their ship first, then take survivors for questioning about human military capabilities." The massive alien fleet began to spread out in a classic attack formation. Energy readings spiked as hundreds of weapon systems came online. The space around the small human vessel filled with targeting beams and scanner sweeps. "Sir," the Hive drone at Tactical reported, "the human ship is powering up some kind of drive system. Energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases." Keftar waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Probably trying to run away. Lock on to them with tractor beams. I want that ship intact for study." But the UHS Defiance wasn't trying to escape. Instead, it suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. The sleek vessel seemed to phase in and out of normal space, appearing to exist in multiple locations at once. The Council's targeting systems went crazy. Lock-on alarms shrieked as the human ship danced between dimensions, moving with an agility that defied everything the aliens knew about space combat. Their tractor beams grasped empty space. Their weapons fired at shadows. "What kind of technology is this?" Admiral Keftar demanded. "How are they moving like that?" His tactical officer's forearms worked frantically over the controls. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors can't get a solid lock. The ship appears to be shifting between dimensional phases. This is completely outside our experience." The answer came in the form of brilliant blue energy beams that suddenly lanced out from the Defiance. The plasma streams sliced through the scales of Victory's shields as if they weren't there. The flagship's massive hull began to buckle, under the assault of weapons that seemed to operate on entirely different principles than anything in the Council's arsenal. "Damage," alarms screamed across the alien bridge. Emergency lights flashed as entire sections of the great warship suffered critical failures. The Council's finest shields, developed over thousands of years, simply couldn't stop the human weapons. "Impossible," Keftar roared. "Our shields have never been breached by any known weapon." The human ship continued its impossible dance through the Council fleet, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. Each time it materialized, blue fire lanced out to strike another alien vessel. Ships that had ruled space for millennia found themselves helpless against this single human warship. Captain Morrison watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. "Their technology is impressive," he told Lisa, "but they've been using the same designs for thousands of years. They never learned to adapt." The battle had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the newest technology could defeat the oldest power. The UHS Defiance moved through space like nothing the Council had ever seen before. One moment it was directly in front of the alien fleet. The next it had somehow appeared behind their formation. Blue energy beams reached out from the human ship to strike targets with surgical precision. Admiral Keftar gripped the arms of his command chair as another wave of plasma fire rocked his flagship. The scales of victory was the pride of the reptilian hegemony, protected by shields that had never failed in 3,000 years of warfare. Now those same shields were failing against human weapons that shouldn't even exist. Damage report. The Admiral roared over the sound of alarms. His engineering officer, a nervous young reptilian, checked his instruments with shaking claws. Forward shields down to 60%, sir. Hull breaches on deck 7 through 12. Whatever those humans are firing, it's cutting through our armor like it's made of paper. On the other Council ships, similar scenes of confusion and panic were playing out. The crystalline cruiser Harmony of Ages watched in horror as human weapons sliced through its quantum-hardened hull. The bioship Living Fortress tried to heal its wounds, but the damage was happening faster than its organic systems could repair. Ambassador Velnara's voice rang out across the Council fleet's communication network, her crystalline tones filled with disbelief. How is this possible? Our intelligence said humans were barely capable of space travel. Their technology was supposed to be centuries behind ours. But aboard the Defiance, the crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment using advanced simulators that had prepared them for exactly this type of battle. Every movement was precise, every command executed perfectly. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez monitored the quantum drive from his station in engineering. The new technology was performing even better than Dr. Walsh had predicted. Captain, quantum displacement is holding steady. We can maintain this phase shifting for at least 6 more hours. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker coordinated the ship's movements with the weapons systems. Quantum torpedoes away, Captain. Direct hit on the enemy cruiser. Their shields are down and they're venting atmosphere. The quantum torpedoes were another human innovation that the Council couldn't understand. Unlike conventional weapons that simply exploded, these devices disrupted the fundamental forces that held matter together. When they struck an enemy ship, entire sections simply ceased to exist. Captain Morrison studied the tactical display as his ship continued its deadly dance. The Council fleet was trying to surround them, but their formation was too slow and clumsy. The aliens had become used to fighting enemies who used the same basic technology they did. Kyle, target the next battleship in line, Morrison ordered. Let's show them what happens when they threaten human civilians. Weapons Officer Kyle Bennett's fingers moved across his controls with practiced skill. Plasma lances charged and ready, sir. Targeting the vessel designated Swarm's Fury. That's one of their bioships. The Swarm's Fury was a living creature the size of a small city, bred by the Hive Queens for warfare. Its organic armor could adapt to different types of damage, making it nearly indestructible against conventional weapons. The ship's captain, Queen Thrix herself, had never lost a battle. Evasive maneuvers. Queen Thrix commanded through pheromone signals to her ship's nervous system. This human vessel must not be allowed to approach. But the Defiance was already moving, phasing in and out of normal space too quickly for the bioship to track. Blue fire lanced out from the human vessel, striking the Swarm's Fury in places where its armor was thickest. The results were devastating. The bioship's adaptive armor couldn't evolve fast enough to counter weapons that worked on completely different principles. Massive wounds opened in the creature's hull, bleeding atmosphere and biofluid into space. Queen Thrix felt her ship's pain through their neural connection. Impossible. My beautiful ship has never been wounded like this. What kind of monsters are these humans? The answer came from Dr. Amanda Walsh's revolutionary research into quantum physics. While the Council species had spent thousands of years perfecting existing technology, humans had been willing to try completely new approaches. The result was weapons and defenses that operated outside the alien understanding of warfare. Back on the bridge of the Scales of Victory, Admiral Keftar was beginning to realize that this was no ordinary battle. His tactical displays showed damage throughout the Council fleet, while the single human ship remained untouched. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel, he commanded. Every weapon, every beam, focus everything we have on that one target. 200 alien warships turned their massive arsenals toward the Defiance. Energy beams that could destroy planets reached out through space. Missiles that could crack moons streaked toward their target. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize entire star systems, but the human ship simply wasn't there when the weapons arrived. The Defiance phased out of normal space just as the alien barrage reached its position. The Council's own weapons fire struck each other, causing additional damage to their formation. Morrison opened a channel to the Council fleet. His voice was calm and professional, but there was steel underneath the words. This is your final warning. Withdraw from human space immediately, or we will demonstrate why starting a war with humanity was the worst decision your species ever made. The transmission reached every ship in the alien fleet. On dozens of bridges, Council officers stared at the image of the human captain in disbelief. How could one man in one ship be so confident when facing such overwhelming odds? Admiral Keftar's pride had been wounded along with his ship. The idea of retreating before a single human vessel was unthinkable. His reputation, his honor, everything he had built over centuries of victory was at stake. All ships, continue the attack, he broadcast to his fleet. Focus fire on that vessel! I don't care how advanced their technology is, they're still outnumbered 200 to 1. Captain Morrison's expression hardened as he heard the alien response. He had hoped to avoid what came next, but the Council had made their choice. He turned to Lisa with grim determination. They've decided to do this the hard way, he said quietly. Lisa, activate the Cascade Protocol. Lieutenant Commander Parker's hands hesitated over her console for just a moment. The Cascade Protocol was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a weapon so devastating that it had never been tested in actual combat. Once activated, there would be no going back. Cascade torpedoes armed and ready, Captain, she reported. All targets locked. Quantum displacement matrix is stable. Morrison looked out at the alien fleet one last time. These beings had ruled the galaxy through fear and violence for 3,000 years. They had crushed every species that had tried to stand against them, but they had never faced humans before. Fire, he commanded. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their absolute refusal to surrender when fighting for what they believed in. The Council had chosen war over peace, and now they would discover the true cost of that decision. The UHS Defiance launched its final attack, and the balance of power in the galaxy began to shift forever. The Cascade torpedoes launched from the UHS Defiance like blue stars being born in the darkness of space. Each weapon was the size of a small shuttle, but contained technology that would have seemed like magic to the Council species. As they streaked toward their targets, the torpedoes began to multiply. 1 became 2. 2 became 4. 4 became 8. Within seconds, hundreds of quantum phase weapons were racing toward the Council fleet, each one locked onto a different target. Admiral Keftar watched the display in growing horror. What are those things? How did one ship launch so many missiles? His tactical officer's forearms moved frantically over the controls. Sir, each torpedo appears to be splitting into multiple warheads. Our targeting systems can't track them all. The first Cascade torpedo struck the battleship Eternal Dominion. The weapon didn't explode in any conventional sense. Instead, it created a field that caused the target's own molecular structure to collapse. The massive alien vessel simply folded in on itself like a house of cards. Throughout the Council fleet, similar scenes of destruction played out. Ships that had ruled space for millennia found themselves helpless against weapons that attacked the very fabric of reality. The bioship Swarm's fury tried to heal itself, but there was nothing left to heal when the Cascade field finished its work. Ambassador Velnara's crystalline form pulsed with panic as she watched her command ship's shields fail. This is impossible. Matter doesn't behave this way. What have these humans discovered? The truth was that humanity had taken a completely different approach to science and warfare. While the Council species had perfected conventional technology, human researchers like Dr. Amanda Walsh had been exploring the fundamental forces of the universe itself. Dr. Walsh had been working in a small laboratory on Earth when she made her breakthrough. She discovered that quantum particles could be convinced to exist in multiple states at once, allowing for weapons and defenses that operated outside normal physics. The Council's ancient technology simply had no defense against attacks that came from other dimensions. Aboard the Defiance, Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez monitored the quantum cascade as it spread through the enemy fleet. Captain, the cascade effect is propagating faster than expected. Enemy ships are experiencing total system failures. The cascade wasn't just destroying ships. It was teaching the Council a hard lesson about the dangers of underestimating an unknown enemy. For 3,000 years, they had assumed that their technology was the pinnacle of achievement. They had never considered that a younger species might develop something completely different. Captain Morrison watched the tactical display as alien vessels throughout the fleet began to suffer critical damage. Some ships simply vanished as their matter lost cohesion. Others found their weapons and shields completely useless as quantum fields disrupted their basic operations. "Lisa, open a channel to the entire Council fleet," Morrison commanded. "I want every species to hear this." Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker activated the communication array. The message would reach not just the surviving ships in the battle, but every Council world within 50 light years. The galaxy was about to learn that the balance of power had permanently shifted. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Human Systems Defense Force." The transmission began. "Today, the Galactic Council learned that humanity will not be intimidated, conquered, or controlled. We offered peace. You chose war. The results speak for themselves." The broadcast continued, showing footage of the battle from multiple angles captured by the Defiance's sensors. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as a single human vessel systematically dismantled the most powerful fleet ever assembled by the Council of Seven. On worlds throughout Council space, alien populations gathered around communication screens to witness the impossible. The reptilian hegemony's home planet saw their greatest admiral's flagship listing helplessly in space. The Quartz Collective watched their most advanced cruisers reduced to drifting debris. But the humans weren't finished demonstrating their technological superiority. Weapons Officer Kyle Bennett reported from his station, "Captain, I'm detecting several Council ships attempting to retreat. They're trying to reach minimum safe distance for faster-than-light jumps." Morrison's expression remained cold. The Council fleet had come to human space with the intention of destroying innocent colonies. They had threatened children and families who had done nothing wrong except try to build new lives among the stars. "Don't let them escape, Kyle," Morrison ordered. "If we allow even one ship to return to Council space, they'll just come back with a bigger fleet. Today we end this threat permanently." The Defiance engaged its quantum drive and flickered across space to intercept the fleeing alien vessels. The ship's null shields allowed it to ram directly through enemy formations without taking damage. Plasma lances reached out to disable engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. Admiral Keftar, his flagship badly damaged and his fleet in ruins, tried one final desperate gambit. "All remaining ships prepare for ramming speed. We'll destroy the human vessel even if it costs us everything." But the Council's desperation only highlighted how completely they had been outmatched. The few surviving alien ships accelerated toward the Defiance, their crews screaming battle cries in a dozen different languages. The human ships simply phased out of normal space and reappeared behind the attacking formation. More Cascade torpedoes launched, each one programmed to disable rather than destroy. Morrison wanted survivors to carry the message back to their homeworlds. "This is the difference between us," Morrison said, as he watched the last Council ships drift helplessly in space. "You came here to destroy. We came to defend. You relied on old technology and overwhelming numbers. We relied on innovation and superior tactics. The battle was over, but the real change was just beginning." Throughout the galaxy, species that had been oppressed by the Council for centuries suddenly found their courage. The hegemony's territorial claims were challenged. The Collective's trade monopolies collapsed. The rigid hierarchy that had defined galactic civilization crumbled in the space of a few hours. On the bridge of the UHS Defiance, the crew watched their sensors as the surviving Council ships limped away from the battlefield. They had done the impossible. One human vessel had defeated the greatest military force in known space. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez reported from his station, "Captain, all systems are still running normally. The quantum drive is stable, and we've used less than 30% of our total ammunition." Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker studied the tactical display, where the debris of alien warships drifted in the darkness. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from 47 Council vessels. They're requesting permission to evacuate their crews." Morrison nodded. "Grant their request. Have medical teams prepared to assist with wounded prisoners. We're not barbarians like the Council. We treat our enemies with honor." The galaxy would remember this day as the moment when humanity announced itself not as conquerors, but as a force for justice. The Council's 3,000 years of tyranny had ended, and a new age of galactic civilization was about to begin. But first, there were still Council leaders who needed to learn that the universe had changed forever. The real test would come when the surviving aliens returned home to tell their people about the day one human ship shattered their empire. 6 months after the battle, the galaxy was a very different place. The great council chambers on Nexus Prime sat empty and dark. The 7 thrones that had once held the most powerful beings in known space now gathered dust. The age of council dominance was over. Captain Jake Morrison stood in those same chambers, but he wasn't there as a conqueror. He wore his simple human uniform without any of the elaborate decorations that council leaders had favored. Behind him, representatives from dozens of species waited nervously for the proceedings to begin. Admiral Keftar, his once proud form now bearing the scars of his defeat, approached the human captain with careful steps. The reptilian's yellow eyes showed a mixture of respect and fear that would have been unthinkable before the battle. "Captain Morrison," Keftar said, his voice lacking its former arrogance, "I come as requested to discuss the new arrangements for galactic governance." Morrison turned to face the alien admiral. The months since their battle had changed both of them. Keftar had spent the time learning humility. Morrison had been working to build something better than what the council had created. "Admiral," Morrison replied with a respectful nod, "thank you for coming. I know this isn't easy for you or your people." The truth was that the aftermath of the battle had been more challenging than the fight itself. Humanity could have simply taken over where the council left off, ruling through superior technology and military might. But that wasn't what humans wanted. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker, now promoted to commander after her actions during the battle, stood beside Morrison with a data pad containing the proposed new agreements. "Sir, representatives from 38 species are here today. They've all agreed to the basic principles we discussed. Those principles were radical by galactic standards. Instead of rule by the strongest, Morrison proposed a system based on cooperation and mutual respect. Instead of fear and oppression, the new order would be built on trade, cultural exchange, and shared scientific advancement." Ambassador Vel Nara, her crystalline form somehow dimmer than before the battle, spoke for the court's collective. "Captain Morrison, my people wish to understand these new arrangements. You could rule us all through force as we did to others. Why do you choose a different path?" Morrison looked around the chamber at the gathered representatives. Some were former council species learning to live without absolute power. Others were races that had been oppressed for centuries and were still afraid to speak freely. "Because ruling through fear doesn't work," Morrison replied simply. "Your council proved that. For 3,000 years you maintained order by crushing anyone who disagreed with you. But you never created anything lasting. You never built trust. You never made the galaxy better." The human captain walked to the center of the chamber where the 7 thrones had once stood. "Humanity doesn't want to replace the council. We want to eliminate the need for councils altogether. Every species should have the right to determine its own future." This statement caused murmurs throughout the chamber. Many of the alien representatives had never imagined a galaxy without someone in absolute control. The concept of true freedom was foreign to species that had known only domination or submission. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez, now serving as Morrison's technical advisor, activated a holographic display showing the new communication network that humanity was proposing. "We've developed quantum communication arrays that will allow instant contact between all member worlds. No more secrets, no more hidden agendas." The technology was another example of human innovation. While the council had hoarded knowledge to maintain their advantage, humans were sharing their discoveries freely. The quantum communication system would make it impossible for any one group to gain power through controlling information. Queen Thrix, speaking for the Hive Collective, clicked her mandibles nervously. "But who will maintain order? Who will settle disputes between species? Who will protect the weak from the strong?" Morrison smiled. "We all will. That's the point of cooperation. When everyone has a voice, everyone has a stake in making the system work." He activated another display showing the proposed defense network. "Each species will contribute ships and personnel to joint patrol fleets. If any world is threatened, the entire alliance responds. No one fights alone anymore." The plan was ambitious beyond anything the galaxy had ever attempted. Instead of one species dominating all others, Morrison envisioned a true partnership between equals. Human technology would be shared freely, but so would alien knowledge and resources. Weapons Officer Kyle Bennett, now serving as Morrison's military liaison, addressed the security concerns that many representatives had raised. "The human fleet will remain active as part of the Joint Defense Force. But we won't be the only guardians. Every species that joins the alliance will help protect every other species. Former Admiral Keftar listened to these proposals with growing amazement. Captain, what you describe has never been attempted on such a scale. How can you be certain it will work? Morrison looked directly at the reptilian commander. I can't be certain. But I know the old way didn't work. Your council ruled for 3,000 years and created nothing but fear and resentment. Eventually, someone would have challenged you even if we hadn't. The human captain was right and everyone in the chamber knew it. The council's system had been doomed from the beginning because it was based on the assumption that might made right. But there was always someone stronger waiting to take power. Over the following hours, the representatives debated and discussed the proposals. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves working together for the first time. The process wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. Dr. Amanda Walsh, attending the meeting via quantum communication from Earth, addressed the scientific cooperation aspects of the new alliance. Human research facilities will be open to scientists from all member species. In return, we hope to learn from your knowledge and experience. Together we can achieve things that none of us could accomplish alone. The offer was generous almost beyond belief. Humanity was offering to share the technology that had defeated the most powerful military force in galactic history. In exchange, they asked only for friendship and mutual cooperation. As the day wore on, more and more species voted to join the new galactic alliance. The Forge Lords contributed their expertise in metallurgy and engineering. The Nebula Mines offered their advanced computer systems. Even some of the former council species chose cooperation over isolation. By the end of the sessions, 42 different species had signed the founding charter of the Galactic Alliance. It wasn't perfect and there would be many challenges ahead, but it was a start toward something better. Captain Morrison stood once again in the center of the empty chamber as the last representatives departed. Commander Lisa Parker joined him, carrying the signed documents that would reshape galactic civilization. "Do you think it will work, sir?" she asked quietly. "Can this many different species really learn to work together?" Morrison looked around the chamber one final time. "I don't know, Lisa, but I know we had to try. The galaxy deserves better than rule by fear." As they left the chamber, Morrison reflected on how much had changed since that day when one human ship had faced 200 alien vessels. The battle had been won through superior technology and tactics, but the peace that followed required something far more difficult: the willingness to trust former enemies. Humanity had shattered the Council's arrogance not just with weapons, but with the radical idea that different species could live together as equals. The galaxy was about to find out if that idea could survive the test of time. Outside the chamber windows, ships from dozens of different species patrolled together through space. The sight would have been impossible just months before, but now it was becoming routine. The new galactic order was taking shape, one small step at a time. The age of human expansion had truly begun, but it would be an expansion of ideas rather than territory. And perhaps, Morrison thought, that was the most human victory of all.